Hello, hello. Lovely to be with you, TikTok family. This is my first time going live with you. So, my name is Leva. I work with leaders who have had a public and a private collapse. And I help them privately reconstruct because they're re entering the field of leading. And sometimes it can be complicated. So, if you've ever had a public collapse, so for instance, I said getting canceled was the very best thing, it really was. So, I was a coach, I taught spirituality, sexuality, and wealth, and I had a public backlash about 3.5, 4 years ago. And it actually was one of the best things that happened in my life because it showed me where I was still performing. Because in the coaching industry, it can be a little like a click and, oh, these are my income claims, or this is what happened with clients, or things like that. So you end up kind of more performing rather than serving. It also showed me where I still had childhood trauma playing out. And it actually worked perfectly because I actually got into coaching to work with kids who experienced trauma and abuse. And I was just working with spiritual entrepreneurs, and I asked God, why am I never working with children? And God said, you're working with the child within the adult who's running the show. So if you have had a childhood trauma, say at 4 or 8 or 13, whatever that age is, you created decisions at that time. You created ways of being that created your magnetics. And then that went ahead to create how you showed up in your relationships, in business, in romantic relationships, with money, all of these places. So I still had childhood trauma playing out. And I got to face it again. I thought I had done it, but no, still going. So I got to actually face the childhood trauma. One of the specific childhood traumas that was coming up for me was they're going to turn their back on me, which historically that happened with family, that happened with friends, and during this time, clients, things like that. And that was a specific trigger that I learned as a child. My parents literally turned their back on me. So I chose to create a decision as a child. Everyone's going to turn their back on me. And then I just recreated that over my life. The other thing I got to learn while being canceled is where I was still looking externally. So again, when you're in the coaching world, when you're in with colleagues or clients, it's like, who am I helping? How much are they receiving? How much are their businesses creating? Things like that. So I was still looking at externals and looking at outside validation rather than self-sourcing, looking inside of myself as well as looking to God. Like, that's who has the real answers. It's not someone else outside of me. So as you're rebuilding, once you face all of those things, then there's actual steps to rebuild. So let's say there is nervous system is number one, because your body will only allow you to have a certain amount of being seen, of money, of visibility, any of those types of things. You have a specific cap or ceiling or capacity, and you have to actually expand that. And if you've had a collapse, it's been triggered. It's actually gotten smaller. So you need to create safety for your body. You need to expand your capacity for your nervous system. And you need to create a system so that as you're moving forward, you don't collapse again. The next piece is identity. Now you think, I know who I am, but do you actually? So identity is actually absorbed. Who you are, I'm going to say a shocker, it's not who you actually really are. Because your identity, you absorbed it. You absorbed it from what you heard from your parents or the people taking care of, your lineage, your environment, your school, these days, social media. All of these inputs are telling you who you are, what your identity is. And that is not actually true. So, who are you? And more, I would say a better question is, who do you want to be? And I know we often, again, look to those externals, look to the people like, oh, well, they have the great relationship, or they have the money, or they have the business. Yet, as we're finding out in today's world, like, not all that shiny is gold. So instead of looking outside of yourself, of I want to be like that person, okay, what would it feel like to have or to be in love, to have the money that I wish, to whatever your target is, your goal? And I actually never like to use the word goal because it actually used to mean jail. So we don't want to put you in jail. Target, something you can keep hitting. So whatever your target is, but feel into your body. What would that be like? Because your body is going to give you an energy. That's what you want to go for. It's the feeling, the energy. It's not replicating someone else or what you see their results are, because if you try and copy someone else, you're also going to get their negative attributes. Like, okay, you may like their money-making possibilities in their business, but if they're cheating on their wife, or if they're not a great parent, or if they're a terrible friend, things like that, you're actually going to, again, absorb those attributes. You don't want to do that. So look to yourself. How do I want to feel? Feel that. Okay. And then what will it take to have that? And follow your intuition and see how that starts to show up in your life. And thanks to everyone who is joining. Again, this is my first time live, so this is kind of cool. And then, so we covered nervous system and we covered identity. Now there's actually returning, or maybe even showing up for the very first time as yourself. And the key here is not to fold, not to show up and kind of regress to the person you were, but you want to actually show up as the person you became in the silence, as the person you became in the healing. When you actually become that person and embody that, then the world starts to shift around you. Now, it's not necessarily going to be an easy transition, because there are people who are really invested in you being a certain way. And you may want to let those people go. I think I posted something earlier about toxic people. If they can't control you, they're going to try and hurt you. So they're going to try and control what others think about you. So if you're re-entering a space, let's say in business or in coaching, maybe even in family relationships, friendships, you have to think about, who am I now? Who have I cultivated myself to be and allowed that I'm a new person. And I can show up this way. I can embody this new person, this new version of myself without regressing, without pandering to someone else's point of view of who I am or who they think I should be, or even who I was. So, getting canceled or having these public collapses really can be powerful, because they can be a powerful reset of your energy, of your life, of your way of being, and you get to find out who you actually are. Not the identity, again, that you absorbed, but the identity that you are choosing, that you are assuming, and that you really want to be in this world. So I want to thank you. I just wanted to come here briefly, say hi, go on my first live. Thank you for showing up. And it was really fun being here. And I will see you next time. Ciao for now. And now I need to figure out how to end this. Real life.